of labor where nonprofits are working on behalf, they're doing in effect a city function.
What I would like to begin with is very briefly, what is you and your organization's role in funding nonprofits?
Thank you, Jim. As the Department of Community Services, we are the department that we're a pass-through of a lot of federal and state money. So we annually share about $13 million of CDBG and home money with the community to the various nonprofits. The home money and the CDBG are targeting low to moderate income families. So that's where those monies are targeted. And the other bucket of money that we are responsible for is the recently, through a charter amendment, the recently appropriated Grants-in-Aids fund, and that is another $1.5 million annually. So those are the two largest buckets of money that we share with the nonprofit community. Thank you.
Thank you. As budget director, we oversee the finances of the city, and because we're all council members, we're out in our districts knowing all the problems and concerns in the districts, and we recently added $8 million to the budget to take care of some nonprofits who have been struggling along, who have received yearly grants from the city, and because of sequestration are having difficult times. However, that money is not being released by the administration. So we're hoping it will be that these especially the ones who have received monies yearly and are depending on these monies, we hope that the monies will be released.
Well, we don't serve in any kind of funding capacity. We're the Hawaii Alliance of Nonprofit Organizations, or HANO for short, is really considered kind of like the trade association of nonprofits, kind of like the Chamber of Commerce, but for nonprofit organizations, although we act as a charitable organization ourselves. But we do track with interest and monitor the activities at the city level in terms of the partnerships that nonprofits have with city government in the delivery of services. And so we've looked in with interest on the Grant-in-Aids process and certainly how sequestration might be impacting the flow of funds down from federal funds like HUD money down to through CDBG funds and out to the community via nonprofit services. So we're looking with interest and happy to contribute to this conversation.
Okay, now the second question, which is on a lot of people's minds, is how does the public participate in the review and the approval process for nonprofit funding?
How does the public participate?
Yeah, from your perspective.
And particularly in the city process? I would say that with any interested citizen can look into the funding decisions made by government around Grant-in-Aids or other types of funding, contract funding to the nonprofit sector. And in terms of public decision making in that, I know there's an advisory committee that the city has put together that allows for that kind of input into the decision making process. I don't know that I'm the right person to be speaking to that particular.
Thank you. Yeah, we always worry about public process and accountability, transparency on the part of city government. The GIA process and the CDBG monies are actually the decisions are made by different committees or task force, and then those findings are sent to the council for approval. There's not really open hearings, I believe, on at the committee level. And so when the council put in $8 million for distribution to nonprofits, we had 3 hearings, the first hearing, second reading, third reading. And so there was an open process, we believed, although the mayor disagreed and said that there wasn't this public process. But what better way than to go through the committee hearing process and the council hearing process? So it's very difficult to, we're trying to work together, but it's hard to understand why this 8 million is not released and why we're being criticized about it.
And I'm going to speak to the processes for the two different buckets of money because it's a little bit different. The federal money, the CDBG money, we procure through an RFP process. And actually, let me back up. The city has a 5-year consolidated plan that identifies the goals and objectives of the, after assessing community needs, of what type of target populations and target needs need to be addressed. And then through an RFP process, projects are selected, or actually proposals are received and compiled and then presented to a CDBG review committee. And that committee, as Councilmember mentioned, makes recommendations to the City Council via a resolution and gets adopted. It is heard at both the Budget Committee level and at the Council level. On the Grant-in-Aids Fund, this is reviewed not by a committee but by a commission. And the Grants-in-Aid Commission is subject to Sunshine Law. And so those meetings are conducted and in compliance with all Sunshine Law, posted 6 days in advance. Public is welcome, testimony is welcome, and community gets to participate. And then that commission provides a list of recommendations to the City Council via Reso, and then the council then has a further opportunity to vet out that list of recommendations from the Grants-in-Aid Commission. Was that the end of it? I think that was the two questions of the process. So the public gets to participate both at the City Council level and for the Grants-in-Aid at the commission meetings as well.
Okay, kind of a follow-up quickly, and that is that, you know, at the state level, there's an elaborate application form, all right, and that goes through the legislature. So the question is, are there application forms that someone has to fill out with budgets and everything else to get these funds?
Yes, sir. There's a very comprehensive application form. It goes through, again, the Department of Finance, Budget and Fiscal Services procurement process, where everybody has to apply and use the same application. We require an assessment of what community need is going to be addressed, a complete budget of how the funds are going to be used, as well as performance goals, requiring the entity, the nonprofit entity, to establish their own goals that we can hold them accountable to. So as they ask for reimbursement of their monies, we're also measuring their achievement of their goals. So we're not just reimbursing for money spent, but also for goals that have been accomplished. And all of those applications have similar details required, as well as timelines and deliverables.
Oh, the forms go through the department. They, yeah, because no, the add-ons, we went through just the hearing, like at the legislature when they're what is that, POS, the purchase of service. It goes through just that, the legislative process.
So this is a kind of two-part thoughtful question, I hope. What are some of the legitimate concerns that policymakers in general have about nonprofits? And then the flip side is, what are the legitimate concerns that nonprofits have about the process? We'll start with Lisa.
So I think to start with legitimate concerns that public officials might have, it might be of duplication. You know, I'm always being asked by public officials if HANO can perceive the entire landscape statewide of nonprofit service delivery, and where there might be pockets of need, and alternately where there would be duplication, such that it would inform their allocation process, so that they're not being wasteful or duplicative in their appropriations. That's a hard answer, hard question to answer rather, where you can perceive duplication. And you know, we have many thoughts about that. On one hand, you wouldn't expect all the time, like Walmart or and Kmart to merge. In kind of a free enterprise situation, you may have two competing businesses offering similar products. Similarly, in the nonprofit sector, there can be competitiveness in the nonprofit sector, but I do understand that since nonprofits are stewards of donor giving, there is a responsibility to perceive waste or perceive duplication and try to address that. So those are some of the things. Capacity, does the nonprofit have enough capacity to be able to partner appropriately with government in delivering service? Many times nonprofits may be eager to meet their mission and to provide support to a government partner, but may not have insight into whether they have the ability to really deliver upon that mandate. And so that's one critical area, capacity of the nonprofit organization to partner. On the other hand, the question that you had about what do nonprofits expect of the government partnership or expect of public officials in the partnership? Certainly, that I think I can speak more confidently to. Nonprofits really expect complete transparency by its government partner. They expect full communication and coordination, whether it's intra-department or interdepartment, or between government in general and the nonprofit sector. The communication mechanisms need to be enhanced in order for there to be good service delivery. Contracts, if it's a government contract or a purchase of service contract, those contracts need to be paid on time in a prompt and timely manner. The value of the contracts need to represent the full value of the service. Oftentimes that contract doesn't pay enough of the cost of the service. Sometimes there are midstream contract changes that happen, and the nonprofit struggles to make that midstream change in the service delivery, and it often costs that organization more, or they're expected to front reserves or front money in order to float the service while the contract is being modified. So there are some things that speak to fairness in the relationship between nonprofit organizations and government that really need to be in place in order for there to be, I think, effective service delivery. So those are some of the expectations. And there is a handout circulating that kind of highlights those key points that I just made. So thank you.
Well, I'm always on the side of the nonprofits. If someone goes to this 501c3 process, they're a legitimate nonprofit. If they can fill out all those forms that government makes you fill out, I think you deserve some money anyway. I especially worry about the small nonprofits because they can't hire a professional grant writer to send in some fancy reply to the RFP. A lot of times for the small nonprofits, their executive director is the executive director, they're the custodian, they do the grant writing, they do everything. So I really am concerned about the ability of small nonprofits to receive grants. And as far as what the nonprofits expect of government, I always listen to Barry Shane. He keeps me apprised of how and what nonprofits are doing. And we try to live up to his expectations of what government should provide.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. From the administration's perspective, I think the first word I wrote down was compliance, because that's where the pass-through for federal and state money. 95% of the dollars that pass through our department are state and federal dollars, not city taxpayer dollars. But either way, we are stewards of taxpayer dollars. So we owe that process transparency and integrity, and that's what we strive to accomplish. And I'm going to borrow Lisa's words. I think she was reading my notes. Stewardship, transparency, capacity, community need. Those are the things that we expect the nonprofits to address and to be accountable for, because we are then accountable back to the taxpayers ourselves. So that's what's top of our mind, that one, we're meeting a community need and we're in compliant with whatever the regulations are for the source of money that we're passing on.